All right, Psalm 77. Let's call this one For I Remember in this psalm that once again seems to find our psalmist in a low moment, beginning in verses 1 through 3. He will say, I cry aloud to God, he will hear. It's a level of confidence he's going to find it tough to maintain, as he's going to go on to say, by day I seek God, and at night my hands are stretched out to him. However, my soul refuses to be comforted. For I remember and recall in past Psalms the way in which remembering and recalling the way that God has come through for them in the past has given them encouragement for the condition they're in now. It's going to be a little bit more difficult for this psalmist to find encouragement, as he's going to say, when I remember, I moan, and when I meditate, I faint. As he goes on in verses 4 through 9 to say, you hold my eyelids open, I can't speak. When I consider long ago, once again, recalling the past, it's not a source of comfort either. As he will say, at least let me remember my song, possibly giving me a moment of encouragement. But that's not going to last, because as he says, that he does a diligent search, it's going to raise some questions for him. Among them, will you spurn forever? Will you never again be favorable? Will your steadfast love forever have ceased? Will your promises have come to an end? Have you forgotten grace, and in anger have you done away with compassion? But he is going to have a turning point around verse 10, where it's going to say, then I said, I will appeal to God. At which point he goes on from verses 11 through 20 to say, I will remember your deeds. And once he begins to remember, quite possibly with greater depth, the things that God has done for Israel, then he begins to find his courage again, as he will go on to say, I ponder and meditate on your way, your wonders, your might, and your redemption, the thing that might be most appropriate for this psalmist at this time. As he says, I also recall how the waters were afraid of you, how your clouds, your skies, your thunders, and your lightnings made even the earth tremble, and how he made a way through the sea for his people in the past, a path through the great waters, yet his footprints were not seen, even as he was carving out a salvation for his people, something that this psalmist is going to remember, can provide him hope in his condition too. But the reality of remembering in this psalm caught me off guard when I realized that, first of all, I expected him to be perked up and cheered up by his remembering, as David typically was. But here, the remembering simply brought him more distress. But ultimately, he remembered something as simple as a song, which gave him a moment of relief, but didn't last, reminding me that there are times in life when I can get down. I can look up my favorite joke, my favorite comedian, my favorite song, and realize that even if it gives me a moment of relief, my problems are still there. And so the thing I liked about the depth of remembering in this psalm is that he moved on from that moment of reprieve that he got, not content there, not discouraged by the fact that it didn't last for very long, but he moved on to something that did cause him reason to hope again, and that was remembering once again the things that God was willing to do are an indication of what he is still willing to do for you, and God willing for all of us, which is sometimes why we say, my prayer for you is my prayer for me, that God give us the strength not so much to avoid painful memories, but to overcome them and not overlook the small ways in which God can pick us up out of the pain of difficult memories. And even if those small moments don't last, we appreciate the way in which God never intended for them to last, but they might simply be a way in which he is bringing us into a place where memory is no longer